People are more likely to be a detractor if something negative happens than they are to become a promoter, because we just naturally are more willing to complain about something that we don't like than we are to grant praise about something that's doing a really good job.
This week, we're going to talk about the impact of UX on brand loyalty. So my first question is, can you discuss a specific instance where an improvement in UX that correlated with an increase in brand loyalty for a product or services?
User experience has a really big impact on brand loyalty because user experience is really just the perspective that your customer or the person using the product is having. If they have a more positive experience where they're able to do what they want to do, then they're going to have a more positive feeling about the brand in general. There's a psychology principle called peak end rule, where it helps you think about loyalty because it gives you different moments in your product experience to consider where to improve it. Basically, peak end rule says that we tend to recall emotionally intense experiences, whether they're positive or negative, more than neutral experiences. You can think of it as a relationship. If you have very intense moments in a relationship, whether they're positive or negative, you're going to really remember them. Or the last thing that happened before you left a relationship, you remember that too. Sometimes you forget all the little neutral bits in the middle. The same thing with a brand. Think about those positive moments in your customer experience. I would recommend mapping out the customer journey. Make a journey map of the core flows through your product that you want your customers to have, and find the moments that are supposed to be the peak where the customer is going to be having very positive interaction. That's when they complete a task that is part of it, or maybe it's when they make the purchase. They finally decided that they do want to buy your product and they just made a purchase. How can you sweeten the deal? How can you make that peak experience even more delightful? So you might add micro interactions or rewards or just something on that moment in the scale to make it even better. That's going to change your product from just meeting expectations of your customer and enhance it into connecting with them and earning their trust, because you're exceeding what they expected from you. The other major place you can focus on is negative interaction. Find the moments in your product that are frustrating or confusing, or if you have a product that maybe is helping you do something that is difficult and not necessarily a very positive experience, try to find the moments that are going to be like the valleys, and how can you make those moments better or just reduce the frustration or confusion. And I would almost argue that this is more important than enhancing the reward. People tend to have really strong memories of negative experiences. And that's why a lot of times when you read reviews about products, people tend to review negatively because they have a very strong emotional response to something bad that happens to them. One of the ways you can kind of focus on those negative interactions is if you don't know where those are, you can run usability testing on your product. And you don't have to do tons of them. You can do just a minimal amount and you will immediately start seeing patterns of where people are having hiccups in a particular flow in your product.
That's true. Like most people have a bad experience and they immediately go and put that for everybody to know. And even if they have an amazing experience and it's great, not every time they go and leave a comment.
That's true. Yeah. There's a lot of users or passive recommenders. So basically you have promoters who are people who are, they're going to sing the praises. They've bought into your brand and they really trust you. So they're going to recommend you to friends and family and write good reviews. But then a lot of people actually fall into this passive state where they like your brand, they trust you, but they're not going to actively go and write positive reviews. And it's not because they don't trust your brand. It's just a lot of people sit in that neutral zone. But people are more likely to be a detractor if something negative happens than they are to become a promoter, because we just naturally are more willing to complain about something that we don't like than we are to grant praise about something that's doing a really good job. And that's just a natural human instinct that we have to work with. So
I know. And now the next question, there's another way that you ensure that user experience aligns with brand values and messaging.
Yeah, if you want to track your brand loyalty, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. One of the easier ways is trying to track your NPS score, which is your Net Promoter Score. And that's actually really easy because it's a one-word survey. So all you're asking is, I think we've all seen it, but it's the how likely are you to recommend this to a friend or a family question. And by tracking that on a scale to 1 to 10, you can figure out your percentage of people who are the promoters, people who are going to recommend them. And then you have the passive area, people who are in the middle, and then you have your people who are negatively responding to your brand. And that's a really easy one. There's a lot of other ways you can track whether or not you have like loyal customers, but that's a really easy one. And then the other things you could track are people repurchasing or re-upping their subscription. And then are people purchasing multiple products? Let's say you have someone who is not only just repurchasing the same product over and over, but maybe if you have a line of products, they buy one and then later they come back and buy a different one. That's a really high indicator that they are loyal to your brand.
What are the key elements of a successful UX strategy that fosters long-term brand loyalty?
A strategy that involves user experience and customer journey at the beginning of your process, and then one that reaches out to the customer base regularly, either through the types of surveys that I've mentioned, or taking in feedback and responding to it, or using social media. Like that can be another way to engage with your customer base. I would say building a strategy that is centered around connecting with actual customers as much as possible, and then whether they have had a negative or a positive experience, and just kind of building in different strategies for the entire life cycle of your product. And I would start that earlier rather than later.
Do you have an example of an app or a company that has successfully aligned this positively?
I would say Google has a very high brand loyalty, and this is because if you think about where they started to where they are, they've really expanded. When they started, they were really just a search engine. They met a lot of customer expectations by providing a service to them and providing a search engine that got people what they wanted. And because they were reliable, a lot of people started to trust Google. And then if you look at them now, they have tons of products that aren't even related to the original things that they were doing. And what happens is when Google came out with new products or they acquired new products, people would immediately try them out, start using them and adapt to them. That is because people who are already using that service are more likely to use other services from that brand because they figuring that it's going to be a reliable product, trustworthy. People know what they're going to get. They know that they have some expectations and they know that they're probably going to be met when they use that.
Maybe whatever that is they are creating is going to be something that simplifies something in our life.
Yes, I would
and
say
it's
so.
Connected with everything that we are now using from Google.
Another example could be tax. It's almost tax season, so like tax software actually has kind of high brand loyalty, I think, because a lot of times you start using one. If you have a good response to it, you tend to keep using it. You can use the data from the last time you used it, and it pre-applies that information automatically into the next time you use the product. It really motivates you to keep using the same one every year.
Yeah. Can you share any insights or data from user research that have informed UX decision and contribute to building a stronger brand loyalty?
Yeah, brand engagement. If you're using social media, you can track how people are engaging with social media, or if they're sharing information or following different accounts and things like that. Social media engagement it's not enough to really know if people are loyal to your brand, because people kind of do whatever they want on social media. But then the other ones that are pretty helpful in combination is tracking repurchases and then tracking multi-purchase products. Those would be the major areas.
Do you have another methodology that you rely to evaluate like the brand loyalty?
You could call on social proof. If you have social proof, this is helpful for people who do not use your brand yet, but using social proof, so like testimonials or even just having reviews. And if a lot of your reviews are positive, then people will use this as evidence that they can trust your brand, even though they haven't engaged with your brand yet. That's another way to attract people towards your brand. It's not going to achieve loyalty, but it can help show that other people have thought that your brand is trustworthy. And another one could be principle. If your friend tells you that a product is good or that they like using a certain service, or if you're looking at different competitors, the one that was recommended to you from someone you know is going to be kind of weighted higher on your list, even though you haven't done any research on your own yet. And when you're comparing competitors, you're going to be weighting higher towards the one that was recommended. So that means that word of mouth is very, very powerful. And so that's why having good reviews and trying to have more people who are promoting your product, who want to recommend it, is very important, because if they can share word of mouth or like online, it's going to influence more people